Good evening, and welcome to the Planning Board meeting for the Town of Holliston for Thursday, April 15th, 2021. Before we begin, I need to read a brief statement. Pursuant to the Governor's order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, C-30A, paragraph 20, as well as the Select Board's emergency order dated 3/16/2020, the Planning Board will be using remote participation for this meeting. The audio of this meeting is being recorded and will be posted at the town's webpage within 24 hours in accordance with the Governor's emergency actions requirements of keeping the public informed of actions during this meeting. I would ask that all participants remotely attending this meeting please state your name for identification purposes each time you speak throughout the meeting. At this time, we will have a roll call for board members. David Thorne.
Josh Santoro.
Karen.
Karen Apuzzo-Langton.
Jason.
Jason Santos, present.
And Scott.
Scott Ferkler, present.
Okay, great. I think first we're going to do the approval of the minutes.
Gonna make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, you're making a motion to approve the minutes. Do I have a second? Or does anybody have any comments? Josh has made a motion.
I'll second the motion.
Scott has seconded. Okay, we'll start with Scott.
Aye.
All right, Karen.
I was not present at the meeting.
Oh, okay. All right, okay. Sorry about that.
Jason wasn't either.
Jason wasn't either, so I guess it's just, the three of us, yes. And you're aye, and I'm aye. Okay. Thank you. And I think we have one quick thing here. I'm trying to think, the address is, looks like...
This is the corner of Highland and South Highland in Holliston and South Street in Ashland. This is a re-signature request from the Department of Agricultural Resources for the Nickerson parcel, which is being, so there's an agricultural preservation restriction being carved out of it. And when their council reviewed the plan, they had some issues for the surveyor, so they redid the plan. We previously signed this a few weeks ago in February. Same exact plan, minus a couple of easements.
Okay.
I'm going to make a motion to empower myself to sign this.
Okay. Josh has made a motion. Do I have a second?
My concern about this is that it was not on the agenda 48 hours beforehand, and if that doesn't make a difference, then I say proceed forward, but if that does make a difference, then I think that we should discuss that.
Okay. I don't know.
It's a general business item, so it's okay to be moving it. It doesn't have to be single. You always carry the generic approval not required. You know, it's not called out as a single item.
Okay. So, still, is there somebody who would like to second it?
Jason, second.
Okay. Jason has seconded. I'll start with Jason.
Aye.
Okay. Scott.
Aye.
Karen.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Josh. That's okay. And then David. Aye. Okay. So you've been, I guess you're going to sign it, I guess?
Yes.
I don't actually have a on me. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Excellent. Don't worry about it.
That's why I went up there.
See what I should have.
Okay. And as it is after 7 o'clock, we're going to continue the public hearing, special permit for CRG Integrated Real Estate 555 Hopping Brook. I'm going to read a couple quick things here. The town will be asking those that want to speak throughout the hearing to use the raise hand feature. If you are dialing in by phone, you can press star 9 to indicate you would like to speak. When it's your turn to speak, you will be asked to unmute. For those on a computer, tablet, phone, will receive a message to unmute. If you are calling by phone, when you are announced by the planning board, you will need to press star 6 to unmute the phone. If you are unable to find the raise hand feature, you can send a chat to Town of Holliston requesting to speak, and the planning board will be notified. I guess first thing we're going to discuss is the curfew tonight. I didn't know if anybody wanted to talk about that in terms of the time end.
I'll make a motion for 10 o'clock.
You're making a motion to 10 o'clock, okay?
Yeah.
I'm going to ask if we can alter that to 9 o'clock.
Okay. 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 10 now 9. Do I have a second?
Jason, second, 9 o'clock.
Okay. All right. I'll start with you, Jason.
Aye.
All right. Karen.
Aye.
Okay. Scott.
Aye.
No.
Josh, you're abstaining? Okay.
No, I'm abstaining,
Okay. Okay. All right. And David, aye. Okay. All right. So by 9 o'clock, I guess. Okay. All right. And I guess at that point, in a minute, we're going to let the public speak first. But I think there's a couple things we wanted to note. I think one is that to date, 52 people have spoken. We have received 132 letters from residents in the town. Some of the people have submitted multiple letters, so we just wanted to let people know. And again, tonight, what we're trying to do is we're trying to have people ask questions that CRG could answer going forward. And we're not, with this point, it's open just for the public to speak. Again, we're really trying to make sure that everybody has a chance to speak tonight. I know this, obviously the last time we didn't have a chance, and I certainly apologize for that. So we're going to make sure that everybody has a chance to speak. Again, I may have to at times make it short. If somebody's going on, I may have to end it. And again, I apologize right now that I may have to stop you to try and get more answers and more questions in. At this point, I think we want to do a quick overview, and I wasn't sure whether the town council had anything that he would like to say. Jay Tallerman, Attorney Jay Tallerman is here. If there's something that, just an overview before we get going.
No, we continue to make progress. I think the format you've discussed makes some sense. We know that there's some items on tap. We received some late information from CRG that we'll take up at the next meeting. That's pretty important to your consideration. But I think, as you suggested, and as we suggested at the conclusion of the last session this evening, is so that the public gets to catch up with the questions that they want to ask, seeing there was so much depth of the conversation last time.
Okay. I didn't know if any board members had any questions at this point.
Dave, before we begin, I think that we need just a tiny bit more clarity. And what I think we're trying to say, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that the public is going to speak in a clear, concise, and direct way. The board will write down questions that we will respond to at our next meeting, and we're asking CRG to do the same thing. We're having a public comment, which goes one way. We're not having a public conversation. That way, the public gets to speak. When we've done this in the past, we get through about 5 people because the conversation goes on for about 20 minutes each time, and the public has specifically asked to be able to speak. So to have the majority of you speak, please keep your comments or questions clear and direct. We will take good notes. We have read all of your letters. We will read your questions and we will respond to those next time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. And then I think as also thinking that, again, this is questions. We really would prefer that if you have some sort of a presentation or something that you submit it to us, and we will make sure that it gets to CRG so that they can answer those questions in lieu of just trying to make this work and make the whole process work. I think before we start, was there any more questions from any of the board members before we start? I don't know if you had anything.
I'm good.
Jason or Scott?
No, thank you, Dave. And Karen, I think you hit the nail on the head. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Karen.
Just looking forward to hearing from the public, and as you say, noting all of it. And sounds like the applicant will have an opportunity the next time to respond to all the questions if they've thought about all of it. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm all set as well, Dave. Thank you.
Okay, and Karen, I didn't know if there was anything else before we start.
My pencil's sharp and I'm ready to go.
Okay, great, fantastic. And again, we'll be noting everything, and I guess we'll just at this point open it up to the public for questions. And I believe the first I see here is let's see, I've got. I'm just taking a look down here. And again, we're trying to go through, and John, I believe it's Delage. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I don't hear you.
He's muted. So.
I don't know if you're muted.
Yes. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So if this is just...
Good evening.
Good evening. So I'd like to thank the planning board for all that you do. And I know if this is just supposed to be questions, I will just ask the question. There's a little scenario before, but basically the question is that the World Health Organization has listed diesel exhaust as carcinogenic to humans. So it seems like this project would be a super spreader. So I think we do not want to be like Ashland, which is a neighbor, and most recently like Wilmington, Mass. So I would just ask CRG if they could comment on that, and basically the appropriateness of their facility in a residential community.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I get an address?
Oh, I'm sorry. Could we have your address, please? Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. 957 Washington Street.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
No, thank you. I'm sorry.
So we will have them give you or we'll get a response for you. But again, we're just going to go through questions and then.
Right, I know.
But thank you very much. We appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
And I believe we've got next is Joe.
Yes, Joe Mastrangelo, 84 Dunster Road.
Thank you very much.
And again, I want to thank the planning board for taking the time and providing this forum. I have a few questions, and I'll make them very concise. One was on noise, and it's a simple question: is the sound engineers that made the study, did they actually record sounds of an existing 160 bay, 800,000 square foot, 55-foot high trucking dock? If that's what I would like to know, if they've actually have those real sounds versus going up into Hopping Brook and providing theoretical data. Second question is on traffic. What is the length of the left turn lane headed west on Route 16? As we know, we have the soccer fields there, and there's a new facility landscaping facility that's just been built there. If you look at the length of a tractor trailer with a 53-foot bed and a sleeper cab, you're looking at 73 to 75 feet long. If you have 3 of those trucks and 2 utility trucks and a couple of cars, and because you have a light now at Hopping Brook, you will have this grouping of vehicles there, which will extend farther than a football field, which then poses a problem for parents at the soccer field taking a left onto Route 16 heading east if that lane is completely lined up with trucks and traffic. Another the other thing, statement, question I have, and this is the last one, is on the traffic on Hopping Brook Road. The traffic consultant or engineer for CRG said the traffic on Hopping Brook Road is irrelevant, quote unquote. Well, it's not irrelevant because you have the Rails for Trails path there. And I walk there with my wife and family many, many times a week. You're talking about, on a good day, it's easy to estimate between 100 and 150 walkers, cyclists, and dogs that are going back and forth across Hopping Brook Road. I've seen many trailer trucks come flying down there 40, 45 miles an hour. There's no way that they can stop. So there's a significant intersection of pedestrian traffic and these trailer trucks on Hopping Brook Road, which certainly has to be addressed and is caused a concern because that's an accident waiting to happen. Again, thank you for allowing me to ask these few questions, and I will bid off now. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joe.
I think the next person I've got here is Mr. Taylor.
Donald Taylor.
We can't hear you. If you're, I don't.
He's muted.
Okay. We'll wait another second, but we may have to come back to you. I'm sorry. Are you there? You've got to hit star 6 on your phone.
Nice background.
Hello? Okay, are you there? Oh, I'm sorry, we can't hear you. Dr. Taylor, we can't hear you.
How do you use doctor?
I believe you told me that last time.
How about now?
Yes,
there we
thank
go.
you very much.
There we go. Unmute. I'm not too familiar with the computer. I'm Dr. Don Taylor. I live in Holliston Woods. First off, I'd like to commend this lady, Terry Stifler. She wrote a note to the chairman of the board with copies, and I commend this to everybody. It's mind-blowing what she has done. I'd just like to make 2 statements, and correct me if I'm wrong. We are dealing with CRG, and CRG is not the owner of the land in question. Is that correct? Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
That's correct. Okay.
Correct. Yes.
The owner of the land of record is John Mark Della Pascoli Trust. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
That is. Oh, no, not correct. Not correct.
He's the trustee.
He's a trustee, but I don't believe he's the owner.
I think he's a sole trustee of the trust.
Okay.
Okay.
That's to be debated.
Yeah, I can't. I don't have that. I can't debate that.
But take it from my word. He's the sole trustee. All right.
Okay.
Now,
thank you. Yes, thank you.
When did the board start dealing with CRG rather than with the owner? It's usually you deal with the owner. When did the owner cede to the board the right to deal with CRG as its representative? Can you give me a date, an approximate date?
CRG's then the applicant at the front.
CRG's the applicant up front.
Excuse me?
CRG was the applicant. They applied, not Mr. Briscoli.
They applied. When did they apply?
Like last year in like February.
Okay, February of last year, 2000.
Longer than that, even longer than that.
No. This application is dated.
Wait a minute. We're involved here in a little bit of a dilemma. Usually, a planning board deals with the owner of the land. At some point in time, as I understand it, there was information conveyed by the owner, the trust, to the board that CRG would be its representative. Because when CRG applied, they applied with full permission of the owner. Is that not true?
I don't have that answer, Doctor.
No, that's true in every case.
Sorry, that's true.
The owner signs the application.
The owner signed the application. Okay. Now, once the owner signs the application, does that transfer to CRG all of the negotiating powers for the owner? The owner doesn't have to produce anything else.
I've just got a couple more minutes. I apologize. I'm just trying to keep things going so I can answer everybody's questions.
Well, this is kind of important. You know, who owns the land and who doesn't own the land? Okay. When those trees were cut down and sold by the owner, I believe it was in 2020. Was that before or after the deed, the application was entered into with CRG? Because I just don't know who's doing what. You can't be an owner and cut down trees and then not be an owner when you're dealing with the town.
No. Well, it was technically separate issues, Dr. Taylor.
Maybe if we could do this, you could give us some questions, then we'll get some answers for you.
Excuse me, please don't shut me off. This is for town council. Did the town council request or receive a notarized copy of the original purchase and sale agreement, which is the governing document allowing us to negotiate with the applicant for this proposed project? If such document has not been requested or received, I would like to know why. It would seem that entering negotiations with the designated representative of the owner should be governed by legal review of the governing document. It would be prudent to table further discussions until such review has been obtained and a written report furnished to the planning board. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Taylor. Thank you very much. Next, I believe we have Ellen. I forgot my glasses.
Ellen Carlisle.
Good evening. We can't hear you, unfortunately.
You're muted, Ellen. Oh, there we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. Actually, my name is Mike Carlisle, not Ellen, so we'll get that squared away. I actually live in Medway at 9 Old Surrey Lane, and I am a direct abutter to the other side of this project. And so I am part of the group of 7, as they say. So I'd like to ask a question for the planning board, if I may, and just open it up for discussion. And it's some answers that I think would be relevant to all of this. Over the past few meetings, CRG's team has made several references to the amended site plan. Our question is, are you considering making a decision on whether to approve the amended site plan, excuse me, in conjunction with the application for the special permit that is currently before you? We ask this question because based on our review of your agenda for this meeting, as well as previous meetings, I do not see the amended site plan as listed in the 555 Hopping Brook sections. Because it has not been posted on your agenda, to consider or to decide the amended site plan would be a violation of the open meeting law. Specifically, section 20, subsection B of the open meeting law prohibits you from considering or deciding the amended site plan because it was not listed as the topic to be discussed at your meetings on any of the agendas. In addition to it not being listed on your agendas, we do not believe CRG has formally applied for you to approve the amended site plan, which they are required to do, and which requires you to make a whole new set of findings set forth in your site plan review, regulations, given that CRG's changes to the site plan cannot be considered minor. That's our question, and I just wanted to get that to you.
Thank you very much. I don't know if we want to put that on the notes or if we want to. I know we have town council is on the call. I don't know if that's something I don't know if you'd like to speak about that now or if you'd like to.
I mean, I can address it now. It's not a violation of the open meeting law. The applicants typically revise their project. It doesn't during the course of a proceeding. They've submitted it and committed to it. That doesn't make the notice improper in any way. It's not a new application. It's an evolution. There is a requirement under the open meeting law to list documents in your minutes, to otherwise catalog all new information, but that's a separate issue. There's no open meeting law violation here. I think the comment is well taken that there should be clarity on what's before you all, but from an open meeting law perspective, I don't think that is a concern to me.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So then I would answer that question with yes, I would consider both of them at the same time. But
kind of a housekeeping issue, just so that it can move to next time.
Cool. Okay, so we've noted that. Yep. I believe next I've got a phone number here of ending in 2731. Unfortunately, we can't hear you.
Hello. Hi.
Yes. Hello. Good evening. Hello.
Hi. My name is Cashel Larson. I live on 175 Winthrop Street. I would just like to ask, Tori Kim from NEPA reached out to Chip, Michael Milnowski, and Peter Bemis, asking whether an air quality assessment would be included as part of the traffic study. Then, because they typically require it when traffic levels are significant based on our mesoscale analysis guidance. So I just want to know if that has been done yet.
We add that to the questions for them to answer, I believe. I don't know that myself, but
yeah, she states to them that it would be helpful, and she understands that much of the neighborhood concerns relate to traffic and air quality, and the analysis of VOCs and the comparison against the NAAQS. And that was an email from her to them.
To them, okay.
This. On February 26, 2021.
February 6th, 2021.
February 26, 2021. And that's from Tori Kim from NEPA.
Email, okay.
Yeah.
We will find that out. Thank you very much. And that's NAAQS, if I'm correct. I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear what you said.
Oh, NAAQS, yes.
Yeah, okay, I got that. Terrific. Okay, thank you very much. Did you have anything else?
Nope, that's it. Thanks.
Great, thank you very much. I believe next we have Rita Bell.
Hi.
Good evening. How are you?
Okay. It's Rita Bell. 37 Locust Street, Holliston. I just have kind of a simple question. I went on the town website and looked through all of the documents you have posted. And the document I was looking for was the list of Holliston abutters who were notified when this application was first put into the planning board. And I couldn't find it. I did find in a news article that the abutting properties in Medway were notified as a courtesy. It wasn't legally required, but they were notified. But my question is, were any Holliston residents notified?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, they were.
Could you post the list?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I didn't know if you have any other questions.
Lots of them, but I won't occupy your time right now. I did put some of my questions in a letter, which I submitted to you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Have a nice night, Rita.
Next, I think somebody is here. We have Liz, I believe. That's is there a Liz who would like to speak to us?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Good evening.
Yes. Good evening.
Okay. Good evening. My first thank you for having this public meeting through Zoom. And
if I could get your address, I'm sorry. I apologize.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. No problem. Thank you.
It's 17 Norland Street.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. My first question is an extension of something asked earlier. And that question was with the sound study. It's my understanding that the noise was taken from two potential loading docks. Those were just two sites, yet there are 170 loading docks. And I just wanted to know if the sound study included an extrapolation to 170 loading docks, because it really wouldn't be economically efficient for a large company to have only two loading docks functioning.
Okay. All right.
And my next question is, it's my understanding that CRG has requested 24/7 access to this property and 24-hour operation, no restrictions on entering or exiting, no restrictions on the number of trucks that are going in or out. So it's my understanding that the planning board can limit the number of hours of operation, the number of trucks that are entering and leaving, the time that they're entering and leaving. They can limit it so that they can only enter after a certain hour and exit prior to a certain hour. So it seems to me that this operation is completely against the need to protect the small town historic nature of Holliston. That number of trucks. And I think that it seems to me that this is a very unusual request for a permit to be asking for a 24/7 operation. It's my understanding that there are no that there is one exception, and that's a medical exception for a 24/7 operation in town. And a medical exception during COVID is certainly understandable, but a request for 24/7, no restrictions on the number of trucks, no restrictions on entrance and exiting is not acceptable. It's not acceptable in a small town in Holliston.
Thank you. Great. Thank you very much. I didn't know if you had any other questions.
No, that's it.
Okay. Thank you. Well, we will note these and then I get back to you. So thank you very much for your questions. Next, I believe we have Gene on the...
Gene Muller.
Gene Muller.
It's Muller, thank you.
Muller, thank you. Good evening.
Hi, I'm Gene Muller, 76 Cortlandt Street. I'd just like to say in reading over any prior 5.5 hopping book studies, there's never any mention of trucks. All the studies are done using vehicle trips. This is also true of the current VS study, and I don't believe that's actually a complete study. It's just an assessment. Mr. Bemis even admitted to us that he's not a traffic engineer. It's okay. What I would say is that a tractor-trailer trip is very different than a car or a smaller truck. A typical tractor-trailer takes about 15 seconds to complete a left-hand turn onto a two-lane road. Even with a signalized intersection at Hopping Brook, it's hard to project how any more than one truck per minute can get out of that site. That's assuming that if we put that light in, that it's going to be green on Hopping Brook 15 seconds a minute, leaving 45 seconds for Washington Street traffic. But even if you upped it to 30 seconds per minute, you can get two trucks out. But now it'd be red on Washington Street half the time, which I don't think is a very good situation for Washington Street traffic at all. So that's the situation. CIG has offered to use LUC 150. In that case, at PM peak, it'd probably take about 20 minutes to get all the trucks out of the park. But if you used LUC 156, that situation would actually last over an hour. So the PM peak would be well over an hour. This is just, and then if you used LUC 155, it would actually take 2.5 hours. And that's just to get the projected truck traffic out of the park. That's the only thing it's considering. It's not considering any other traffic at all. So I would think that in that situation, the level of service code would be an F. I think people would be, peak traffic would just see a lot of waiting around of both cars and trucks. Also, I don't think either Hopping Brook or Washington Street was designed for the significant number of tractor trailer trips. I think the road wear is going to be terrible. I'm also very dismayed that no traffic assessment was done using LUC 155 or 156, which the planning board asked for and never got. I would believe there should be a new study that would evaluate all the intersections that go from Holliston to Milford, at least to the intersection of 109 and 16. I think we really need this study. The 2003 Supplemental Environmental Impact Report traffic study was 318 pages and included assessments of all of the intersections that I've mentioned above. So I really believe that a traffic study needs to be conducted for this project, especially for the tractor trailer use, which has never been considered before. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much. And if you could just, again, LUC, if you could just go back through that one more time, that last part, I just want to correct my notes here. LUC 156, is that what you said?
Yes, that's what you asked for.
Okay.
And then also, if the study was done with that, I think it would actually take more than an hour to get the trucks out of the park in the PM peak. That's what I said. I did submit all of this in a letter, and I'd be able to share my notes, but I think a professional traffic study should be done, like it was in 2003.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time and for your comments.
Well, thanks for listening. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I believe next we have Harry Stifler.
Hi, yes, thank you very much for this opportunity and for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And I'm Terry Stifler from, I live in Mudville on 58 Front Street.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I just wanted to start out by saying again, and I know Jean just alluded to this as well, the MIPA study, the MIPA response that came back after the developer's lawyer, Mr. Nyland, requested that they not require them to do any additional studies and that they could rely on the work that was done more than 20 years ago on this site. I would like to say that I saw the response that came back again from the environmental group, the state, that basically said that they deny that request. And this was last July. And they said that they will require that they do a notice of project change, which they also mentioned that they should do a more full-blown environmental study, because previous out there, I went back into old studies, there were rare species out there, including a certain spotted turtles and four-toed salamanders. And some of those sites I've seen in the more recent documents I was able to get a hold of, some of those sites actually show the pathways of migration and where some of these were nesting. And it was hard to tell where they were on a map, but they look like they may have been up on the upland area, which is where they may have already cut the trees. So I have an issue with that they should respect and do another notice of project change. They should assess where the 2 upland wetlands were that were previously identified in older studies. They were protected under Holliston bylaws. They weren't under the Wetland Protection Act. And the study that was done out there recently by Ecotech only looked at the certified vernal pools, not the ones that were actually previously identified as wetland protected under the Holliston bylaws. There may be more species out there beyond those 2 species. We don't have any idea. I feel that they also promised a conservation easement. The conservation easement, to my knowledge, has not even been started. That's on 45 acres on that land. They promised a wastewater treatment plant. They promised it before they started phase 2, but they built the pharma industry, which is part of the first building built for phase 2. So they haven't done that. They haven't stood by their word on that. When they began to cut the trees and Holliston asked for a cease and desist, they stopped briefly and then they started up again, where we had to then we had to force them to stop. So I am just feeling very much so that a lot of the data we have from them and the details are incomplete, inaccurate, inadequate, incorrect, or still unresolved. So I feel very strongly that the planning board should not approve this special permit, and they should require that they have to go back and respect what came out of the MIPA finding, which has been pushed back on them multiple times, and also do a more thorough environmental study. They can't rely on something from 20 or even 40 years ago when they did a full-blown study out there. And that is all I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Terry.
Thank you.
We appreciate your time. Next, I believe we have Barbara.
Hi, Barbara Ryan, 14 Irving Place. Thank you so much to the planning board and the town committee for hosting this meeting. I did submit a letter, and I, just on behalf of my family, implore the planning board to consider the denial of the special permit. My public questions are around safety and life safety for a building this size. We have an amazing, in my less than 2 years of living in Holliston, an amazing volunteer fire department volunteer. And I'm wondering if they've been part of the process and planning process. Have they had input? Will they have training to address if there is, God forbid, this does go through in a building of that size, will they be able to respond? Are there agreements with other surrounding area fire departments to respond if there's something? I'm sure this will be heavily sprinkled and to code. However, even if there is a response, where is the water going to come from? How will it affect the surrounding community? And what can we expect for water tables? I also, if there's been identified a type of tenant where there'll be flammable, toxic, or other types of potentially harmful materials inside the building. And again, who will be designing an emergency response plan to a building this size, whether it's man-made or nature-made? Is that whose responsibility is that? And then who pays for such a response to such a large facility? My other questions, I think regarding quality of life, I'm a rail trail lover, I'm a nature lover, and I echo what I believe my neighbor Terry just said about, are there any endangered species that will be impacted by this type of building? And then again, just pollution and the consideration to have any updated or more expansive studies. I thank you so much for this time that I've had to share this with you. Again, I hope with all the right and good and input of the community information, there is a consideration to deny a special permit. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time this evening. I believe the next person I see here is Scott Carmen. Sorry, I forgot my glasses, so. I don't know if you're on mute or.
No, he's good.
Oh, he's good. Okay.
He's on mute. We still can't hear him.
I'm having some technical difficulties. Can the members of the board hear me?
Oh, yes.
We can hear you now. We can see you now.
Yeah, thank you very
Okay.
much. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name's Scott Carmen. I'm an attorney at 141 Tremont Street in Boston. I spoke at a previous meeting. I represent 7 of the Medway abutters. I have more of a comment than a question, so I don't want to be out of order, but it's not clear to me whether or not there'll be a final opportunity for comment at a later meeting or not. If there is, then I'm going to hold because I don't have a question. If the board's unsure, I'd ask to be heard on my final comment that I want to make to the board.
Why not?
Okay. Where, if you'd like to comment now.
Sure. I appreciate that, and I can assure you this will be the last you hear from me. Look, we all know, everybody knows that tractor trailers coming and going from the site 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day of the year is going to cause certain levels of invasive noise. Nobody can stand in front of you with a straight face and tell you that that's not the case. The consideration and the decision you need to make is what is the frequency with which all these residential neighbors are going to have to listen to that from these 18-wheelers. To that point, one of the factors you need to decide in your special permit factors is the proposed project shall not create any significant emission of noise. And when you deliberate and when you look back at everything, when you decide this at your next meeting or the following meeting, I'd ask that you listen closely to Mr. Tachi's presentation at the March 18th meeting. It's specifically at hour 1 minute 13. He was responding to board member Santos's careful questions to describe different types of noise and how different types of noises are important. So there was a discussion about trucks versus the beach and so on and so forth. And this is what Mr. Tachi said, and this is a direct quote, I'm not paraphrasing. The problem is in the middle of the night when background sound levels are low, these start to become louder than some of the existing sound levels. A lot of the characterization of that noise will be, well, how often do these things occur? How often do these events occur? There is no measure of how often they may occur. That depends on the tenant that occupies the space. That'll vary widely. It depends on the tenant, and it depends on the hours they will operate. So I think the first application that CRG and Mrs. Deli Perscoli submitted to you was over a year ago. And now we're over a year into applications before the town. You still don't know who the tenant's going to be. We do know that they are at the maximum end of the spectrum of operating 24/7, 365 days of the year, without any proposal or agreement to limit their conduct at all in the middle of the night. Given that testimony from their own witness, coupled with the fact that there's no limitations on hours, when you're deciding this thing, it's going to be impossible for you to find that they will not create any significant emission of noise. So after you've heard everything, on behalf of the Medway abutters, we're asking you to respectfully deny this application. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time. I believe the next person is Michael Barry.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, good evening.
Good evening. I'm Michael Barry. I live at 54 Regal. Just one real major question, which is there a comparable facility that we could visit or that they're using as a comparison to what this facility is going to look like and operate like? Are there some place that has the operational hours of 24 hours a day, the truck traffic that we're talking about, being so close to residential neighborhoods, and the roads to access it? Because what these trucks are going to use, no matter what we say or do, they're going to be going down the country roads. They're going to be going down South Street. Any truck coming off of 495 is not going to go down Beaver Street by Stop and Shop because the traffic already is brutal there. So they're going to turn and go down South Street. It has any big discussion of where we can visit or somebody can go visit a site that they're using to compare what's going to happen here in our town?
It's a very good question. I know there's been discussion about that, but I can.
The applicant sent in, a representation that some thought might have been inadequate. Some may have thought it was adequate, of a Jordan's furniture facility in Taunton, like a warehouse, something like that, a couple meetings ago. And, some people thought that it might not necessarily have been, a direct, comparison. But
if that's what they're comparing apples to oranges, because the facility that they're talking about in Taunton is a big building. It's near a neighborhood, but it's only open 8 to 4:30. That's it. They're right off of Route 24. That's a little bit easier than coming off of Route 16. So comparing that, you really can't. And it's unfortunate if that's what they're going to compare.
Yeah.
And the other question I have is, who's going to enforce the conditions of this, whatever permit, if they're issued a permit? We already deal with the Lowell Industrial Park where nobody follows any of the conditions that they're given. And based on what they've been discussing so far tonight, where they've cut trees down when they weren't supposed to cut trees down, they haven't done some of the things that they've been asked to do and they told that they will do. How can we, as residents in town, rely upon their word that they're going to follow the conditions that they've been given? I'm a little concerned about that living over here near the industrial park where we don't really have too many people following the rules over there already.
Okay. All right. I can't speak for, if they're going to, if we set parameters and follow the rules. What I can tell you is the plan, and I love saying this, the planning board is not an enforcement agency board. We are a regulatory board. That would be the enforcement boards are the boards of select people and the police. So those would be your best bets to talk with about enforcement.
All right, well, thank you very much for listening. I appreciate it. I'm really thank you for listening to the residents in the town.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Next, we have SZA.
SZA, the rapper.
No, hi. Good evening. This is Suzanne. Good evening.
Oh, hi.
Hi, Suzanne.
Good evening.
Good evening. This is Suzanne Edelman, 46 South Street. Thank you very much to the gentleman that just spoke. He addressed several concerns that we have here. I'd like to talk about truck traffic noise. We live very close to Washington Street. So assuming that these trucks, whether it's going to be the LUC 150 or 156 or whatever the reality is, the size of this building. The noise from Washington Street, if you take a left and heading towards 495, from there to just to the Milford-Holliston line, there are, I think I've counted 9 horizontal cuts in Washington Street that every single vehicle that hits bangs, bangs, bangs. Any individual living on Washington Street, South Street, they all hear it. The traffic noise as is right now is horrible. Will there be studies based on noise down on Washington Street from Hopping Brook to Milford, and also from Hopping Brook, say, well, let's take the traffic right down into town because you're not going to be able to control them. Where are the noise studies, the existing noise studies now, and then based on the corrected LUC code? So I'd like to talk about that. The truck traffic noise is outrageous right now. And then we're talking about the addition of an 800,000 square foot building, which is the 3rd largest building of its kind in Massachusetts. You're going to add that to it, running 24/7, 365 days a year. It's not acceptable for this area. These types of buildings are located off of highways and have their own exit ramps. So backing up to my question, where are the noise studies for the existing conditions on Washington Street right now? And then let's talk about what the real LUC code is, what the real traffic numbers are. And then I ask you to deny this permit based on those reasons. So thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you very much for your comments. Thank you very much. Let's take a look here. I want to, I have Gary Donlin, excuse me.
Sorry, I was taking a minute on you. Can you hear me all right?
Oh, yes, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I had a few questions I wanted to pose to the planning board, but need to give a little preamble because they're based on the history of this project. When the project was first designed, the engineering design consultants.
I'll do it. Mr. Donlin, I really can't have you doing a presentation tonight. If you could just send it in to us with comments.
I'm not doing a presentation. If you'd like me to ask my question as a very long question, I'd be happy to do that.
I would prefer the very long question.
Okay.
Please. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Since this project was identified by the engineering company that designed it as a land use code 155 or 156, which is a high cube fulfillment center warehouse or high cube parcel hub warehouse, why was the traffic engineering study done on a land use code 150, which is a traditional warehouse, which is 1/8 the size of a high cube warehouse? My second question is, in the special conditions related to traffic, over a year ago that you gave to this project on March 11th of 2020, item 21, just to further give evidence that this is a high cube warehouse you should be assessing, you instructed the applicant to do a new study, trip estimates and associated capacity, and signal warrant analysis shall be updated to reflect the IT supplement based on land use code 156. That's a high cube parcel hub warehouse. That has not been done, and instead, they submitted a traffic study using land use code 150 for a traditional warehouse. The traffic impacts when this project is assessed as a high cube warehouse is between 4 and 7 times what the traffic study has estimated. And if that's the case, not only is it more than 3,000 trips a day, which triggers a NEPA investigation, it also causes the light at Hopping Brook in Washington, even with the light put in, to have a level service of F, per Mr. Muller's earlier comments. And so my last question is, Since an 800,000 square foot by 52-foot height building could be used for any type of high-Q warehouse, and if there's no tenant for the building, must not the planning board review the project based on the most intense possible use of the building in order to estimate its potential impacts? I believe the answer to that question is yes, you must, and I believe you haven't. I would encourage you to do so, since the applicant originally told you it was a high-Q warehouse, and it still has the footprint and the height of what the ITE says is a high-Q warehouse. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dahlman. Thank you.
We appreciate your time. And next, I believe we have Janet on the phone.
Janet S.
Hello. Hi, Janet Sheehan, 5 Old Surrey Lane, Medway. I'm a direct abutter. Oh, so many questions. Hi.
Ask away.
Okay, so first, the numbers of the traffic. I don't think they make sense, because if you look at so they're giving us 1,300, they're saying 500 employees, there's 1,000 trips right there. So my first question for CRG is, why do you need, if the remaining traffic is 300 trucks? And I'll also add that I did submit a request for this question to be answered to Peter Bemis. It was never answered in terms of what is the percentage of trucks. But let's say we use these numbers. So 1,000, that will be the employee car traffic. So there's 500 employees, there's 1,000 trips a day. That leaves 300 for the trucks. Why do we need 160 loading docks for 300 trucks going 24 hours? It seems a little excessive. Maybe we can just cut out the 80 loading docks that are literally in our backyards that we will be hearing 24/7. And let's also consider, and I don't know why we are not talking about the full master concept plan of the other 2 buildings that will double the traffic. So it's really 600 trucks per day. And so my first question is, why do we need so many loading docks? My second question is, why aren't we talking about the other buildings? And my next question is to CRG. So as Suzanne mentioned and other people have mentioned, these facilities usually have their own exit off the highway. So this being put right in a highly residential area that has walking trails, biking trails, are there any facilities that you have built, CRG, that have paths that cross right directly in front of where your trucks are traveling to the highway? Because the Holliston Rail Trail goes right through the Hopping Brook Park entrance if you're hiking towards Milford. Now, those trucks coming down that incline, it's to brake when you're going down an incline. I'm going to assume that it's not a very easy process. And if you have pedestrians and bikers and joggers, that it's that's a lot of trucks. So if we're saying the full build out, 600 trucks per day, and all of those hikers, I think that's a huge, huge pedestrian safety issue. So that's my question for CRG. Do you have any facilities that have hiking trails that pass through your truck traffic patterns? Now, in terms of sound, I didn't even know about air handlers. So I was concerned about the uncoupling, the backup beeping, the yard dogs, the accelerating, the braking. I didn't even know what an air handler was. And I have heard, I don't know the details, but there was a sound problem with another air handler in that park. And this will be on top of a 52-foot high building. This is going to be over the berm and over the trees. So you gave us nice charts and you said the sound was going to bounce down and somehow bounce against the trees and it was going to be reduced. These air handlers are going straight up over the trees, over the berm, right into our backyards, our windows, where we're sleeping 24 hours a day. And I'm assuming even if the board does limit the hours of operation for the trucks, I'm going to assume that the air handlers have to run continually to maintain the building. That's just my assumption. So my question regarding that is what is the actual noise level that we will be hearing in our neighborhood from the air handlers that are not being protected by a berm or trees or a sound wall? My next question regarding water. So I know every inch of that land back there, it is full of water. Even during the drought period that we've had, if someone were to go back there, there are standing puddles everywhere. Right in my backyard, I could hear water gurgling up every spring. So where is all this water going? And we all know Route 16 floods continually when there's a rain. So you're going to be displacing, just with the site intensity of this size of this building and the hardscaping, you're displacing an incredible amount of water, and it has to go somewhere. Is it going into our backyards? Is it going onto Route 16? You know, and then the questions of contaminating the wetlands around the area. And then, so my question is, I guess, just basically, where is this water going that you're displacing? It's muck soil. It's classified as muck soil if you look at the tax records. My last question regarding exhaust fumes. So this was touched upon a little bit, and it's something that I personally am adverse to, but hearing that it is a carcinogen from another caller and reading studies that children that live in areas where there is an industrial traffic of trucks and a lot of cars have worse health conditions like asthma, et cetera, due to the exhaust. So we are near a school. We have a neighborhood with a lot of small children. This will impact us. And what I would like to ask CRG is, I'm going to look into studies. Other people have done studies on air quality and health. And I would ask that they look at these studies too and consider them before they want to move near such a highly residential area. And I just wanted to ask the board to just really consider.
Oh, you
muted yourself.
You muted yourself.
No, it said the host muted me.
Oh.
So, and then it said to unmute.
Yeah,
so
sorry,
that's okay. All right, I'm done. So really, those are probably about 7 questions, 6 or 7, and I really would like them answered. And I thank the board for listening. I did send my letter, and thank you for listening to all of us, hearing our concerns and presenting our questions to CRG. And I would urge that you really just think about this and how it's going to affect Medway as well as Holliston. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time tonight and for all your questions. I believe next we have Charles Myers.
Yeah, hi. I want to thank the planning board for all the work that they're doing and the opportunity for everyone to provide questions and comments. I want to just bring the planning board's attention to my letter of March 25th, because I know that you've received a lot of correspondence on that. In that, I list a group of what I would call finding site review type comments. I just want to call attention to a few this evening. First responders in the Holliston Fire Department were talked about earlier in the question comment on that. I would only highlight that as I have gone through and reviewed probably 500 distribution centers across the United States, that it's more common for 800,000 square feet plus to have a standby water supply because of the cubic storage material that's taking place in there. And I didn't see that on the original or the adjusted site plan, which prompts the question of the review of the water supply with the Holliston Fire Department and whether the water tower there and the piping in between and all are capable of supporting an incident should one occur. One other thing on the 24-hour operation discussions, I recognize that interior operations 24/7 are one thing and exterior operations are something else altogether. Question for CRG to answer to the board would be, would CRG be willing to restrict the truck traffic to and from the site from, say, the hours of arguably 11:30 to 6 a.m. or some evening type limitation on entrance and exit activities, part one. Part two would be, would CRG be willing to stipulate the use of battery electric or zero emission electric drivetrain yard equipment, because I did note that they're not planning on doing any diesel refueling on the site. So if they put yard dog equipment, terminal tractors is another name for yard dogs. If they put that kind of equipment up, where would they be refueling it and how would they do it? Would they be driving it over to the diesel site opposite the schools in the center of Holliston? So I think it's a benefit to stipulate to the tenant that they use an electric zero emission battery electric drivetrain for that piece of equipment, which then eliminates parts of the noise in the evening on that. So I just wanted to bring a couple of those items and ask that the board take a look at my letter of March 25th, which has some site plan review comments that I would ask them to go through and take a look at. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Virginia.
Next, we have Virginia Roach.
Hi, I'm Virginia Roach at 105 Arch Street, and I'm a civil engineer. And since our last meeting, I was able to take a look at the stormwater report for the design of the stormwater management facilities. I think the biggest thing that stood out to me is there's a requirement in the Massachusetts stormwater standards to treat a higher amount of stormwater runoff for water quality, 1 inch rather than a ½ inch, when there are two things. One, if there are any outstanding resource waters in the area. And secondly, if this is a land use with higher potential pollutant loads. So the stormwater calculations used only a ½ inch for the water quality volume. Basically, this is a volume of water from the pavement and, you know, the types of things that basically get oil and grease and sediment and debris that has to be treated in those infiltration basins and held back and infiltrated, because that is what you chose as your BMP, your best management practice. So what makes it an outstanding resource water? Well, I took a look at the state Mass Wildlife's natural heritage and endangered species mapping. And there are 2 certified vernal pools. There's a certified vernal pool directly downstream of your outlet from your infiltration basin near the entrance to your facility. So that makes that an outstanding resource water. And it's a critical area. Not only do you need to treat the 1 inch, you also need an additional 44% total suspended solids removal from the stormwater that discharges to that vernal pool. You don't have that 44% in your total suspended solids calculations. Somewhere along the way, I did see you had particle separators, but it's not in your stormwater report that you have that in the design. The land use with higher potential pollutant loads, that's a no-brainer. It's with all the truck traffic, I think there's a criteria on one of your checkboxes that you do not check that you have 1,000 vehicles going in and out. I mean, just, you know, a school bus parking lot would be a higher potential pollutant load. Therefore, this is also that. So not only do you have to get that 1 inch in the infiltration basin at the entrance, but you also need it in the other infiltration basin. Now, it looks like from your calculations, you were just making it with the ½ inch and the one by the access way, and you almost were making it for the 1 inch if you tried in the other one. So that was the biggest thing. The other things, you know, I mentioned in other times that I've spoken before you, that recharge is very important to Holliston. We've been through a lot, you know, not just for our drinking water, not just for the, you know, we have droughts and we basically have to limit our water use. But also, you know, we wanted to have a sewer system in town years ago. And there was a whole discussion about recharging the stormwater and the wastewater. And basically, we weren't able to get SOARs related to this same issue, basically recharge. So what's missing from your analysis, you just pulled a Rawls rate, it looks like, from a chart for your infiltration rate. And what you need to do is a soils textural analysis to substantiate that rate. And I don't see that, so maybe you have it somewhere else, and you can speak to that. And lastly, hold on. Just want to make sure I get everything. I sent this in a letter today. Oh, there are other things I think that have been picked up by other reviews done of this. Things like you need a long-term operation and maintenance plan, things like that. I'm not going to harp on those other details, but I think that we have a major fatal flaw here that needs to be corrected. You're going to have to make some room for a bigger detention basin or something. You need to treat the stormwater to a higher quality in accordance with the Massachusetts stormwater standards. That's I know you wanted questions. My question is, why didn't you do that, I guess?
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, terrific, great. Well, thank you very much for your questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
I believe next we have Nick Mara.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but there's a kickback.
Yep. Nick Mara, 123 South Street.
Good evening.
Hi. Just want to let you know, I've been a truck driver for 25 years. I've gone to a lot of very big buildings. I don't want this in my town. But one of the things that I just noticed about when you go to a really large facility like this, they have a guard shack. When a tractor trailer pulls into a facility this size, they pull up, they don't know where to go. So what they have to do is they have to pull to a guard shack. And typically, I'll give you an example. I deliver to BJ's down in Uxbridge. And we could have, 10 trailer trucks all lined up waiting to try to get in here. And of course, now if you go on a map and take a look at the BJ's facility down in Uxbridge, it is right off the highway. And they have this huge long driveway that goes to a guard shack. Where they pull up to the guard shack, and that's where they get their instruction as to what door to go. And also at that time, what would happen is they would be cutting the we call a seal control. It's they could put a bolt or some sort of identification that the trailer hasn't been broken into on the transport over to the facility. So what's going to end up happening is you're going to have a line of tractor trailers just waiting to get into this facility. And I'm just wondering if there was any plan for that guard shack. How do they dispatch where these guys coming off the road are going to go to the doors? And so that's, I guess, the question. And just to keep in mind that when you do have that, you're going to have a tremendous backup. And, you talk about noise studies. You should do a noise study on what it's like with 5, 6, 7 tractor trailers all idling in the same line, because that's what you're going to have waiting to get into this. You might want to just take a look. I mean, if someone wants to go down and just take a look at any point in the day, take a look at the BJ's down in Uxbridge. I don't even think it's half the size of what these guys are trying to build. But I mean, at least there you can see how long a line of tractor trailers there are waiting to get into the guard shack. And a couple other people brought up a good thing. I am curious how you're going to refuel these shifters. I mean, you can make them road legal so they can drive and fuel up, but you need diesel. You're not going to. First of all, you're not going to get an electric shifter. That's not going to happen. It's going to be a diesel. They've changed the beeping sound. But it's no better. It's annoying. I don't even like it. It's awful. So that's it's just a problem. You can't do it. But anyway, the question is, are you having a guard check, and are you going to do a sound study of 6 to 7, 8 tractor trailers all waiting in the same line to get into this place? Because that's what you're going to have, guaranteed. Okay. But anyway, thanks for taking my question.
Thank you very much, Nick.
Thank you very much.
Did we get Nick's address?
Yep, 123 South Street.
Next, I'm going to try and just get, there's somebody here, Chester Williams, and then we'll go back to the other people.
Yes, thank you for taking my call. I am Chester Williams, along with my wife, Sandra Sims Williams. We're at 15 Carriage House Way in Medway. I really want to highlight some things that Nick said regarding the intensity of these noises that we are being asked to contend with. Most importantly, from my point of view, is the fact that we have not talked about the children. There's been no provision made in any of the presentations that I've heard, and they've only been 3 because we're only here for 3.5 months, that deal with the children and our youth. I asked the board, have you considered asking CRG to sponsor trained psychologists, trained children's psychologists, to ascertain the impact of these new noises that can stretch through the night? And have you considered asking them as well to look at getting a sociologist to come in and look at the interpersonal relationships between the citizens of both Holliston and Medway? These kinds of studies can yield important information. And don't forget, we are in the midst of a pandemic. And in a sense, it's a bad time, because we are asking our children and our youth to not only contend with the pandemic as they had done for the last year, but now with something entirely new for them. There seem to me to be some unexpected traumas and stresses that could really affect how they perform in school, how they get along with each other. So I'm asking the board to consider making it very clear that we need to have some information about all of this that has been talked about the last hour or so, and quite impressively, I might add, how all of these things affect our children, our babies. My next door neighbor has a new baby, and these big trucks have come within 30 feet in 1 or 2 cases of our home. And from judging from what I see, the grounds have been so disrupted that trees, 2 or 3 of them, if they fall, they will hit our home. And when winds come, they wiggle and waggle, and you get the sense that they really might fall. Second question, does the CRG have a budget for how we handle all of that on this side of the project, on the Medway borderline to Holliston? What do we do about that now? So we're asking the board to, yes, deny a special permit to CRG, but secondly, raise these questions. My next question is really for the board. Is it the case that these conversations will come to an end? Will the residents of both of these towns be given an opportunity to talk more? The second question to the board is, how many citizens have we interviewed or have you talked with already? And are we bringing this to a close? I'd like to have that question answered now, because that will direct the conversation going forward, both for me and for others. Are we coming to an end of these conversations with the citizens about this project?
I think we spoke before once when I was walking my dogs on the street, Mr. Williams.
Yes.
So I would just like to say hello.
Hello to you. Thank you.
Yes. You raised some very valid points. I just want to thank you for your time commenting. But to answer your last question, no, the board doesn't feel that we have, well, I can't speak for the board, but I believe that it's the feeling of the board that these can, comment sec and, continuation of these hearings will continue on for quite some time, more than likely. We have a lot more questions. There's a lot more information. New information keeps coming up. People keep raising valid points. So I would say directly to that, no, I don't see this coming to an end anytime in the next few weeks or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So there will be time for more comment.
Well, thank you very much. We've heard some great comments this evening, and thank you for keeping your word. You did tell me when you were walking your dog that I could get in touch with you and you would make a positive response, which you have, and I want to thank you for that. And again, thank the board for listening to me and to the rest of us, and we look forward to continued dialogue around these critical issues, and they are indeed critical. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Steve on the line.
Steve Mcmaney. Sorry for butchering it.
Hi, this is Ann Mcmaney.
Okay. Oh, good evening.
Hi, and Steve is here too.
Okay.
But I'm going to speak. First of all, oh, Josh, not coming to an end anytime soon. You're killing me. This has been such a long process. And we, as Medway abutters, I live on 12 Carriage House Way, first received the notification back in June. So it's been a long 10 months. And I really hope that the information that has been provided on all fronts will help you come to a decision soon. Because honestly, I don't know how much longer I can give up my Thursday nights and other nights on these Zoom calls, as I'm sure many others as well. But I do appreciate them nonetheless, and they have been an amazing learning experience for all of us, and it really is something to see the level of expertise that we have heard from the community on so many of these areas, and I really want to thank everyone for all the time and effort that has been put in, as well as the planning board. I can't even imagine how many pages of information you've had to read over the past months as well. And so I feel like when the decision does happen, it will be a well-informed decision, which is a good thing. My comment and question is related to the fact that this high cube fulfillment distribution center proposed is larger than any other structure in the town of Holliston, and will have more cubic feet of stored material than Holliston has ever seen. There are currently about 18 or so buildings with businesses in Hopping Brook Industrial Park, and someone had put together a nice one-pager that showed each business and the current approximate square footage of each of the businesses and how that would compare to 555 Hopping Brook. And it's quite eye-opening when you look at it on one piece of paper to see the approximate relative size of these buildings as compared to that the 555 would be as compared to what's currently in Hopping Brook. The smallest being about 5,700 square feet up to the largest, American Beverage, that I think Janet Sheehan had mentioned about the air handlers being on the top of that building and being problematic already at 106,000 square feet. So we're talking about 800. When you look at the bylaw, your own Holliston bylaw, before granting a special permit, the things that you'd want to consider, among other things, the proposed use in relation to the site, as well as the adjacent uses and structures, and shall find that there will be no significant adverse effects to the neighborhood or the town, that it does not significantly alter the character of the neighborhood, that the project is compatible with existing uses and is designed to be compatible with the character and the scale of neighboring properties. And there's other things listed in that as well. A lot of things have been mentioned tonight related to the safe vehicular pedestrian circulation, in relation to emission of noise, dust, fumes, gases, etc. It just doesn't seem like there's any way that could be comparable. So as a Medway abutter, I would just like to say in closing that once this is built, if it is built, how are we going to do anything if they break the rules? We'll be hard pressed to close the warehouse down. You're creating a lot of work for somebody who's going to have to police and monitor all aspects of this project. So for those reasons and all of those that were brought up tonight, I respectfully ask that the board deny the special permit and that we get to enjoy our Thursday nights again for the summer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Terry Stifler is another question. What? Oh.
Yes, thank you very much. And Ann mentioned a couple of things I was going to mention, so I appreciate that. But I will also make a few last questions. Mr. Williams made a good comment, a really good comment. If you look at some of the issues, when you look at environmental justice issues where communities are right next to highways and they're dealing with this, the air pollution, there are huge issues with asthma and things. And usually the communities, it becomes, you know, they think that this is the way it's supposed to be because it's so prevalent. So that was a really good point that was brought up by Mr. Williams. I did want to mention that one of the things that has stood out to me often is when we've got on these calls and CRG is talking. I've mentioned before that I work for an engineering firm. When we're asked to design something, we bring that design to the table and we give them all the details of what's in that design. We don't come to them with things missing and say, well, tell us what you want. Well, tell us what you need. Well, the only thing you can't have is we need 24/7, 365. Don't take that from us. Nope, we can't give that up and we can't give that up. But the thing is, it is not the planning board's job to design this project. And each time I'm on the call, like I said, I'm in an engineering firm now for over 14 years. I've been in many design reviews. I've actually been part of them. And you don't walk in with anything that's up in the questionable. You come in with your design, and that's how it goes. You don't ask the client to design it for you. So I would say that that's kind of a big question to me. And I also, somebody else mentioned earlier about the other two buildings. We don't hear much about that. I think they're trying to keep that a little quiet because everybody is not too happy about the 800,000 square feet, never mind the additional 700,000 that's being proposed to come in. So again, those were just a couple more things that hit me as I was listening to other people discuss this. Thank you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. I've got Paul is calling in.
Paul Faramelli.
Hello, am I unmuted?
You're unmuted.
Yes,
good
evening.
Okay. Good evening. I'd like to thank everyone for all their efforts here, the board and all the concerned citizens. I have questions, and this is how is this going to affect
your address? I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, if I could get your address, that would be great. Thank
I'm
you very
sorry,
much.
8 Kim Place.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, my apologies.
No problem.
Okay, I'm wondering how this affects the behaviors of the other businesses in Hopping Brook. Now, I know that they've said that for the proposed project, they would limit what traffic patterns they could use. But this is going to cause the existing traffic to have to adjust to get through, you know, the nightmares that I see on Washington Street. So I'm kind of concerned about that. But I guess what's probably has me really scratching my head, and I call it the buzzing fly scenario, where this little fly is buzzing around your head. You know, it's just a little fly. But all these studies they've done, everything's been quote unquote makes it under the acceptable limits. But one is it really acceptable when we're looking at 24/7, where this is not just going to be the exception to the rule, it's going to be the rule? That really has me concerned. we really need to take that into consideration. And I'd just like to make a comment that I think this is bad for Holliston. It's not what Holliston's about. It will kill the town as far as I'm concerned. And I fear that, once you let the genie out of the bottle, it's going to be too late to put it back in. And I don't want us to say in a year from now, well, it seemed like a good idea at the time. So as you can figure, my thought is no to it. Thank you.
Thank you
very much. Next, I've got Matt.
Matt Minch.
Yes, gentlemen, thank you. Matt Minch, 4 Old Surrey Lane. Appreciate you taking the time. I'll get right into questions. I've got 5 different questions, both for the board and others for CRG. So question 1, there's obviously 2 different sides, CRG and the residents that know, I underline know, about this project or projects. Thanks to Janet Sheehan for bringing up that this isn't just an 800,000 square foot facility when all is said and done. So all the residents are vehemently opposed to the project without a single supporter based on what's proposed so far, maybe with the exception of one person that spoke up at a meeting. So the question is, why would the board consider a project with no town support? Second question, also for the board, we have our expert witnesses, the residents, in studies, as does CRG, traffic noise, info about vernal pools, etc. None of the study comparisons between resident experts and CRG are even in the same ballpark. We're not even close on any of this. So the question is, how will the board decide which studies to consider? Wouldn't it be prudent to revoke any permit approvals until studies can be redone based on new information and further clarification that the board has requested? Question for CRG. With no town support from Milford, Holliston, and Medway, why would you want to build this project, aside from the obvious reasons, when everyone is so up in arms, which probably won't go away? It's been stated that everyone has known about this project for 50 years. I can assure you, the vast majority of people never knew the size and scope of this project. I've been living here for 3 years and had no idea that such a thing would be going in there. So unless something gets built that people can live with, it won't bode well for any tenant. And the question to CRG is, wouldn't you agree? This is not just about CRG, it's also about the future tenant. Another question for CRG. Many concerns about this project remain. To CRG's credit, some new mitigation has been proposed, but noise, among other things, remains a big concern, especially with the air handlers, which has been brought up, perched on top of the building, that will generate a lot of noise and be above the berm and wall, with disturbing to the abutters, among others. Why not relocate? This is the question for CRG. Why not relocate those air handlers down to the ground level to help mitigate that noise? Lastly, this is more of a statement, but brings up, I think, a very good point. The impacts of massive addition of traffic concerns everyone in a multitude of ways. I'll focus on just one. The direction the trucks are allowed to leave 555. Yes, we understand that there'll be signs directing traffic and monitoring. The Holliston chief of police is on public record saying they cannot enforce where the trucks go, whether South Street, Washington Street, or Summer Road. CRG has also not offered a method of fining violators except to say there'll be language in the lease addressing this. I frankly don't find that answer at all satisfactory. I feel the board needs to further contemplate how to address this from a legal perspective. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
So I want to address. Sure.
I think we have one more person. Again, I believe it's SEA.
Mrs. Edelman.
Mrs. Edelman, yeah.
Suzanne Edelman.
Suzanne Edelman.
Oh,
Good
gosh.
evening.
I don't even have to use my real name anymore. And you guys figure out who it is, huh? I think that's a dubious honor indeed. So back to trucks, my favorite subject. Where are they going to refuel and where are they going to hang out? CRG said that they were just going to go off to the truck stop somewhere. Could someone tell me where these truck stops are and where they're planning on refueling gigantic diesel trucks? Takes a long time to fuel up a diesel truck. I know that from a little bit of personal experience, how long it takes to fuel something up. Where are they going to be fueling it up? Because they can't do it down in front of the schools. Woodland Street is going to become hopefully a truck-free zone, and that's not possible. Where would you fuel these up and specifically where? What's the address? What's the location that they're going to be driving this many vehicles to refuel them? Where is it? And second of all, where are they going to be hanging out? Because I've noticed that the FEMA building down here on Washington Street is becoming a truck stop itself. Every morning, there's 4 and 5 of those large car carriers spending the night there. So where are they going to go? And how are we going to enforce that? Because it's not being enforced now. So that's a real question. And I do have some real concerns about how this facility is going to be managed if this happens 10 years down the line, because we can't, I just don't feel like there's enough enforcement. Certainly the police department can't enforce it. The fire department can't enforce it, and the select board can't enforce it. You'd need a small army to keep 555 within their parameters. So again, I guess my question backing up is, where are they going to refuel and where are they going to hang out? Are they going to leave the area immediately or are they going to hover around? So thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. We have a couple minutes left, and before we end, I'd like to see if the town council attorney Jay Chalman would like to say anything. I don't know if there's anything that you would like to add to this.
No, I think the discussion's been good. I've been taking some notes on some things that I want to follow up on with the CRG crew and Karen. But there's been some really good comments and some new angles on some things. I think it's been really productive tonight.
Okay. That's great. Well, thank you very much. And I didn't know if there were any board members before we finish up. We've got about, well, we could end early, but I don't know if there's any board members and any questions. I don't know if Karen had anything or Scott has anything well, I don't know if Karen, you were going to, I'm sorry.
I actually feel the same way Jay does. I took a lot of notes. I think a lot of good points were raised, and I'm going to look forward to hearing what, I guess, councils speak to each other about, and in the next meeting, how we have CRG respond to some of these things.
Okay. You know, I've got quite a few pages of notes here tonight myself, so thank you, Karen. Scott, I didn't know if you had anything that...
No, I agree with Karen. Yeah, I'm interested to see the responses. I think there were a lot of great questions raised tonight, so definitely interested to see what the responses on those are.
Yeah, okay. All right. Jason, I didn't know if you had anything.
No, thank you, Dave. It was great to hear from everybody. It was a good way to, get everybody's questions asked at least, and hopefully we can get some answers the next meeting. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. I do see that somebody has raised their hand for one more question. We have a few minutes. Now, Nick Mara.
Hi. Yep. Thank you for getting to me late there. Nick Mara, 123 South Street. I guess the question is just for CRG. How many company-owned trucks do you think you're going to have here? I mean, if you can't answer the refueling question until you kind of figure out how many company-owned vehicles you have, straight jobs or tractor trailers. So just put that on your list if you could, please.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
so much.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to go to Lauren first here because we have not, or Lorene, excuse me. Good evening.
Hi there, Lorene Douglas. I live at 20 Powderhorn Lane. One of the concerns that I have, obviously, as well as everybody else, is with the amount of traffic and how it's going to influence the downtown traffic, especially during rush hour. I mean, it's a nightmare down there as it is with the traffic lights we have. But one thing that nobody has mentioned in every study and every complaint and everything about what's going on there is light pollution. A facility of that size running 24/7, 365 days a year is going to have an enormous light pollution impact. And I was wondering if one is required to do one and if one has been done. That could have a great effect on not only just the neighborhoods around the facility, but also on the wildlife. That was all my question was.
Great, thank you very much. Next, I believe we still have a couple of minutes. I think Terry has another question.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm sorry, I keep hearing things and remembering. I've been reading so many things lately that these questions keep coming up. One of the other questions I wanted to bring forward in a previous meeting was CRG said that they would not plan to have a cafeteria in this building. I came across several documents that talked about the TDM that they have to look at for carpool ideas and things like that and trying to reduce some of the traffic coming in and out. And one of the things that is specified in that is that they need to have facilities on the site for their employees. So I did want to highlight that, to go back and take a look at that in the, I think it's the TDM, I think it's called, is they need to consider some facilities for the workers, which would include cafeterias. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think at this point, I don't know unless there's
It's ready to make a motion.
Oh, okay. We're about to, somebody has just made a motion. I just want to thank everybody who's been on this call.
Yeah, definitely want to thank everyone who spoke.
We really appreciate it. And again, every email or everything that we get, we review and look at. So every letter, all the comments and everything. So we do have all those and we do look at them. So certainly we appreciate everybody's input and everybody's time on all these calls and all the hours, as somebody mentioned there, every Thursday nights and being on a call with a couple hundred people. So we certainly appreciate it, and we appreciate everybody's participation. With that being said, I think the next meeting will be for May 6th. So we would probably need to continue this to, somebody would have to make a motion to
continue this meeting to May 6th.
May 6th at 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock,
okay.
2021.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Jason, second.
Okay, Jason is seconded. We'll start with you, Jason.
Aye.
All right, Karen.
Aye.
Okay, Scott.
Aye.
Josh.
Aye.
And David, aye. So this has been continued to 7 o'clock on May 6th. This CRG 555 Hopping Brook. And at this point, you have made another motion.
I have. I've made a motion to shut it down.
Okay. Do I have a second to end the meeting?
Second.
Scott has seconded. I'll start with you, Scott.
Aye.
Okay. Karen.
Aye.
All right. Jason.
Aye.
Okay. Josh.
Aye.
Okay. And David, aye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, and have a good
night. See you on the 6th. Don't party too hard on the 5th.